Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show.
It may well possess a rudimentary intelligence.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Felt a great disturbance in the force.
Hello, I'm Mr. Red.
Come on, bark like a dog for me.
Where's the goodies? Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.
I bet you wouldn't have done anything like this if Mom and Dad were here.
You filthy criminal.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Here are your hosts, Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Why, I've never been so insulted in my life.
Well, it's early yet.
He's had a change of heart.
A lot of good that'll do him. He's still got the same face.
I welcome you with open arms.
Is that so? How late do you stay open?
This lady is my wife. You should be ashamed.
If this lady is your wife, you should be ashamed.
She looks as healthy as any woman I've ever met. You don't look as though you ever met a healthy woman. What? I could dance with you till the cows come home. On second thought, I'd rather dance with the cows till you come home.
Welcome to Everything Old is New Again. Thank you, Groucho Marx. In case you didn't know, that's who that was. I am here with the jokester himself, David Cohen.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm well. Looking forward to this show.
This and the next 6 shows, we are going to be entering into the world of comedy. We are going to be...
For the first time.
Yeah, exactly. We are going to be purveyors, if you will, of the perfect. We are going to try with the same type of March Madness brackets that they use in college basketball to determine who is the funniest person of all time. And we're calling it our Maze Mayhem. David Cohen, how do you like the name?
You know, it's okay.
Good to start out with a bang here. That was great to hear. Yes.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
You should have consulted me on that one before you just kind of bombed.
What would you do? What would you do? Let's hear it.
I don't know. Something other than that. But the point is that, you know, this is going to work like the Sweet 16, the bracket of 68. And we're going to narrow it down to find the funniest person, not the funniest actor or funniest comedian or this or that, just the funniest person. Is that an accurate description?
That is correct. And we are going to be joined for the next 6 shows with our friend, the droll man himself, or a very droll, if you will, Dan Newberger, high school friend of ours, going way back when to Half Hollow Hills High School East. Dan, how are you doing this morning?
Oh, great. What do you mean by droll? That sounds like a negative thing.
It is a negative.
Droll is another. No, look it up. A thesaurus for comedian or comedy. Another word for comedic is droll, and droll is what you are. And droll sometimes might be a little bit dry, if you will. Comedy, like.
Do you want to just start the whole show over? Or?
I would like to start it and just sort of turn your microphone off, and then we could really start with that.
Is there another word for thesaurus?
Synonym, I guess. All right, listen, we got to get rolling here. I'm going to give a list real quick to the audience just so you can hear. We have a list of 67 that we are starting with. There's a play-in game for 8 of them, or 4 play-in games, if you will. But I'm going to do this real quick just to give you the universe of where we are. We've got Jerry Seinfeld, Richard Pryor, the Marx Brothers, Bob Newhart, Carol Burnett, George Carlin, Eddie Murphy, Bill Murray, Monty Python, Larry David, David Letterman, Woody Allen, Walter Matthau, Kate McKinnon, Gary Shandling, Martin Short, Louis C.K., Roseanne Barr, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Matt Groening, David Sedaris, Gilda Radner, Jack Benny, Steve Martin, Bob and Ray.
Are you reading them all?
Yes, Bob and Ray, Abbott Costello, Lucille Ball, Jackie Gleason, Art Carney.
Go get a coffee, David.
Yeah.
Dan Aykroyd, Gene Shepard.
And others.
No, Bob Hope, Carl Reiner, Sid Caesar, Chris Rock, W.C. Fields, Will Ferrell, Don Knotts, John Candy. Laurel, the more you interrupt, the longer it takes. Laurel and Hardy, Albert Brooks, Dick Van Dyke, Mary Tyler Moore, Jerry Lewis, Harold Ramis, Milton Berle. Any more? Robin Williams. How about Tina Fey, Johnny Carson, Don Rickles, Rodney Dangerfield, Mel Brooks, Joan Rivers, Lenny Bruce, Lily Tomlin, Bill Cosby, Dana Carvey, Mike Myers, Betty White, Neil Simon, Madeline Kahn, The Onion, Andy Kaufman, Smothers Brothers, Key and Peele, The Three Stooges, Eugene Levy, Christopher Guest and Alan King. Those, or that, if you will, is the universe. Dan, how did you come up with what we did was we took three or 1/3 of that list is of each of us. So we took people that we wanted to have participate in. Dan, what was your category? What would your thought in terms of how did you get people involved? Which person you chose? Why'd you do it?
So just so that the listeners understand, we started out with about 2,000 names, went through 42 sessions already just to narrow it down to this list of roughly 68 for the funniest acts. It's also almost impossible to try and choose who the funniest person is. This is going to be a really interesting conversation. I went through the process in my mind. I was like, well, what are the criteria that you would use to determine who the funniest person or act ever was? And so I'll be interested to hear what you guys think about this, but I looked at it from a couple of different perspectives. I thought, okay, first of all, you want to make sure that the person or the act is consistent over time, right? The ability to make people laugh over a period of time, I think, is something that would determine someone's funniness. A person who can make somebody laugh over a sustained period of time across multiple settings and contexts is somebody like a Billy Crystal or an Eddie Murphy, right? I would put them in that type of a category. The second thing was creativity, because I think a truly funny person often has a unique and creative approach to humor. They're able to take an ordinary situation or everyday observation and turn them into something hilarious. People like Bob Newhart, George Carlin, Jerry Seinfeld, and so on. I think as I was contemplating, who would I put on my list of the funniest people, one of the things that kept coming up for me was the delivery. The delivery of a joke or a comedic performance, I think, is crucial. A funny person has the ability to use timing, tone, physical movements, whatever, to enhance the comedic effect of their joke. So somebody like a Jack Benny going back a while, or Lucille Ball, or Stephen Wright, who I actually saw earlier this week in New Jersey. Another thing that I thought about, and this one actually admittedly would put as lesser of a criteria, but I do think it's one that is important in terms of like thinking through who the funniest person ever was. And that's what kind of an impact did they have on the culture or society? Like some comedians have had a very significant impact on popular culture and have left a lasting legacy that continues to influence the way that we think about and approach humor. So think about somebody like Lenny Bruce. For me, he was just a brilliant observationist and very funny in the way that he did it. And I will tell you that one of the things that, and this actually was reinforced to me earlier this week when I was at the comedy show, was, do I laugh out loud? Does this act or person make me laugh out loud? To me, that's the difference between being entertaining and being funny. So if you think about it, like the original cast of Saturday Night Live, they made me laugh out loud because it was just outrageous. The more recent iterations of the show are certainly entertaining, but they don't make me laugh out loud as much. And as a result, I just don't think they're as funny. So those were some of the criteria that I used as I was thinking through. I know I'm probably a lot more analytical than most people are about this kind of stuff. Dan. I know it's hard to believe.
Well, that's a strange thing, because that's I was going to say those exact words. You took the script right out from under me. I did the same exact thing.
Oh, dang it.
I think everybody in the audience was thinking that. No, that's a great way to organize it, I think, and present what your thinking is. And I'm going to ask David Coney, do you have anything to add, or what was your criteria?
I just, pulled names out of a hat. So less analytical, but nonetheless, I did it.
Okay. And so along those lines, I just did something where it was people that I want to watch again. I did a lot of what Dan said there. It's very true.
Yeah, in the back of my mind. Yeah, sure. All that stuff factors in.
All right, so let's start rolling here. We've got Alan King against Christopher Guest here, and let's hear.
So is this a play-in bracket? Like, what is this?
Exactly? This is the play-in brackets. We're doing the 4 play-in brackets. Okay. In fact, we have no time to do this, so we're already behind. We will come back after this, and we will begin. How about that? We'll start afresh with the play-in brackets on Everything Old is New Again's Mayhem. If you want to participate, email us at oldnewagain@AOL.com, oldnewagain@AOL.com, and or check out the website. We're going to put the brackets up on the website and participate that way. We'll be back right after this. Everything Old is New Again.
You're listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Hi, this is Alan Alda, and you're listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Yes, and we're also here with Dan Newberger, and we're now going to open the door and get into the game. The stadium is filled with people cheering. We're going crazy. It's March Madness, but not really. It's called Mayhem. Well, you want to call it May Madness? May's Mayhem is at least more creative. But David Cohen.
What is May's Mayhem?
It's two M's.
Whatever you want to call it. Just keep going.
So now we are going to listen to some clips and decide. And we're going to try to see if we can do this with a semblance of civility. Let's not fight each other too much over who do we like better. Alan King or Christopher Guest? Alan King first.
It's a funny name, Yoel, isn't it? It's not Julius. It's not Joel. No. Yoel. He was the dumbest man that ever lived. The minute he come to my mother's house on Sunday, the minute he sat in the chair, he'd fall asleep. And then he would break wind and wake himself up.
Before we discuss, let me just play that juxtaposed to Christopher Guest.
You see, most blokes are going to be playing at 10. You're on 10 here, all the way up, all the way up, all the way up. You're on 10 on your guitar. Where can you go from there? Where?
I don't know.
Nowhere, exactly. What we do is if we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly. One louder.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
Okay, there we go. So I'm going to start with our guest on this one, and we'll round robin this. But Dan, what are your thoughts of Alan King versus Christopher Guest, and who's your vote for?
Well, I mean, they're both. I love them both. They're both hilarious. But I think Alan King is a much better storyteller, a comedian in the classic sense. I actually would say, in my vote, I would say Christopher Guest is funnier. I mean, you think about what he's been in. This is Spinal Tap, which I love. Best in Show, A Mighty Wind, Princess Bride. He's been in so many things that would just, I think, classic comedies. I'd have to go with Christopher Guest.
David Cohen.
Yeah, I mean, I like Alan King, but, it was a very specific time that he was in. And he, wasn't allowed to probably talk about as much as I'm sure he'd like to have talked about, as did many other comedians back then. So I think they were limited and constrained in some way. But, regardless, I think Christopher Guest is the guy because, he's written and produced and starred in so much funny stuff. It's hard to deny his impact. So, Chris Guest for me.
I would also add that Christopher Guest, I'm not going to say pioneered, but he did something that they do on Larry David does now and other people are doing now is he crafted scenes and a movie, if you will, with an outline, but not a script. And
he almost created the mockumentary.
Exactly. So I guess it is a pioneer. You're right, David. So mockumentary is the best way to put it. So on top of things, that creativity really puts him over the top. Besides his performance, and he's writing this stuff and the stuff that he's saying anyway, he's hysterical. So Christopher Guest wins that round. Now,
all right,
we have
the first play-in. We have a winner.
Yes.
Plus, I think he should win just because he's married to Jamie Lee Curtis, who I think is, even though she's getting up there in age, she's smoking hot. So.
She sure was. Okay.
Who was Alan? But Alan King was married to somebody really famous too.
Was he?
Yeah. I'll Google it while you guys are talking. In honor of Alan King,
right.
Who we've moved on from now.
Next, we are on to the Three Stooges and Eugene Levy. Three Stooges, we know them.
See that?
Oh, please.
Pick out two.
1, 2.
Yeah.
Oh! Look at. Oh!
I think we get the idea.
Why you?
Very, very thoughtful comedy there. And then we've got Eugene Levy.
But we started dancing, He didn't want to dance. I was like dancing by myself.
I did not want to dance because...
Say, get up, Jerry.
I kept saying, I can't dance. I can't. I've got 2 left feet. I
thought he was kidding.
But I wasn't. I was born with 2 left feet. And they had a nickname for me. They used to call me Loopy because, I would walk in little loops. Kept going in circles.
How are ya?
There we go. David Cohen. That's Eugene Levy, actually. David Cohen, which would you select? This is a tough one for me.
Yeah, it's not so tough for me because I like Eugene Levy. He was Bobby Bittman. We used to do that bit. How are you? We co-opted that. So, and yeah, talk about someone who's been in the business a long time. Wow. Now he has his own show and it's great. But with that said, I think the Three Stooges had much more of an impact going forward on comedy, believe it or not, than I think he ever will. So I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm leaning towards the Stooges, baby.
I have to tell you the truth. I've been watching the Stooges since I was like 8. And if it comes on the TV now, especially if they have Curly, after Curly, I think they jumped the shark there. But when Curly is with the Stooges, holy smokes, I have to still watch it. But it's hurts me because Eugene Levy, I really, really love everything that he does. And it's just hard for me, but I have got to go with the Stooges on it as well, just for the longevity and their timelessness. And I don't think anybody else has done or does or did. I mean, there's slapstick, but things that they did, the chances they took on all the routines and so forth. So I'm going to go with the Stooges. Dan, I think is going to disagree with us. I don't know.
Yeah, I am going to disagree with you. And I love the Three Stooges. I grew up watching them on, I think it was WPIX in New York. My brothers and I did the slapstick together. To this day, I walk up to my kids and go, nyah, nyah, nyah. But having said all of that, Eugene Levy, I think, is a genius. I mean, from his time in Second City Television up to Schitt's Creek and The Reluctant Traveler and his movies, Best in Show, American Pie. I just think he's incredibly funny, understated kind of guy. So as much as I like the Three Stooges as a kid, they made me laugh. That slapstick humor to me is not as funny today over time as it was once. And I think Eugene Levy has a lot of longevity. He's done it in so many different contexts or media, if you will. So I'd have to go with Eugene Levy.
All right, there we go. I could be convinced one way or the other, but I made my vote, so I'm going to go there. But that is a tough one, and this is going to get tougher as we go.
So majority rules, right?
Majority rules.
That's why there's 3 of us.
Correct.
Okay.
So Stooges. So let's go now. Let's take a look. We've got so many to do. We're just going to keep on plowing through it here, and I think it's going to lead to some discussion of the arguments you love to have, as we used to say, right? How about The Onion versus Andy Kaufman? The Onion first.
I'm talking about Brian Pete, the fat boy from Richmond, Virginia, who successfully averted ridicule by swimming, get this, with his shirt on.
Amazing.
Now, for those of you who aren't familiar, Brian, who's been fat since birth, was tired of being made fun of at the community pool. So when it came time to hit the water, Brian devised a plan to keep his upper body covered. Now today, the Onion News Network has more on that fat little boy's big fat discovery.
A supersized welcome to you, my friend Brian. Thanks for being here.
You bet. So, Brian, for our viewers who may not be familiar with our story, tell us what happened.
Well, I kept my shirt on when I was swimming.
Yes, you did, but it was a lot more than that because that shirt shielded you from the ridicule of others. It made them completely unaware of your oversized stomach and a pair of floppy breasts. Isn't that right?
Yeah. No
This is just horrible, but so funny. We got to go real quick, Andy Kaufman, and we'll make our vote and come on back.
So anyway, I quit the show, and my wife, at that time I was wrestling women on Saturday Night Live. I got a lot of hate mail, and no producer would hire me after that. So one day I was at my manager's office trying to get an engagement for a dinner theater in Wisconsin. And I got a call from my wife's lawyer. She wanted a divorce. And she got a divorce. She got the kids, the house. She got all my money. Not all my money, but some. Anyway, she got everything. I moved to New York, and now that's what I'm doing now, living in New York. And I don't really have anything. So anyway, if anybody could, I know this sounds like a cliche, but if you could, any extra money that you have, I would appreciate it.
He goes into the audience.
Was that the funny clip?
Yeah, he goes, exactly. We were back to continue and discuss and determine,
here, I think.
not my clips, but who's better, who's funnier, The Onion or Andy Kaufman. We'll be back right after this. And Everything Old is New Again.
You're listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
This is Bernie Coppell, also known as Siegfried from Get Smart. You are listening to Everything Old is New Again. You understand? Good.
We're back here on Everything Old is New Again, doing our Mayhem, trying to find out who is the funniest person of all time. We left off there with The Onion and Andy Kaufman. And, the problem is, you guys talk about the clip for Andy Kaufman. There's a lot of things to do, but we have limited time. Most of his stuff, just to get to the joke, if you want to call it that, takes minutes and minutes and minutes. It's very hard to put Andy Kaufman. He doesn't do jokes, so you can't do something in like 30 seconds, Anyway, I think I go first this time. So The Onion makes me crack up. The Onion is never not funny. The Onion, to me, is hysterical. But I'm curious, do we take into consideration popularity? I don't know that everyone knows The Onion. I know everyone does know Andy Kaufman. Finally, to me, Andy Kaufman was so incredibly creative, as we talked about with Christopher Guest a little bit, creating something or doing performance art and doing things that no one had ever done before. That put you on edge, and sometimes you didn't know what the joke was. Is there a joke or not? And then when you could not forget his appearances on Saturday Night Live and Letterman and so forth. And of course, he did Taxi. He was brilliant there. So I'm going to have to go with Andy Kaufman, but it's a tough call. Dan, where are you on this?
This one to me is not all that hard. So first of all, I'm not a huge fan of The Onion. It's funny, but whatever. Andy Kaufman. Now, if we were talking about the most insane, funniest act, Andy Kaufman for sure would be toward the top of my list, but it's like watching a train wreck. There's stuff that he did that made me like sit at the edge of my seat going, is this guy like for real? I remember him on Saturday Night Live singing the Mighty Mouse song. He's bizarre, but I think he's more insane than funny. So I'm actually going to go with The Onion.
Well, how about that? After that rousing show of support.
I hate The Onion. I never found it funny. I'm going to go with The Onion.
Exactly. But whatever.
Hey, some people say
it never made me laugh. It never, ever made me laugh. But you know what? I like The Onion.
David Cohen, where are you going on this?
Well, it is difficult. So The Onion, to me, like I knew they did some video and audio stuff, but I just remember The Onion, just the headlines that they were known for, whatever was going on in the news, and they would come out with a headline, and it never failed to make me literally laugh out loud. So, this is tough because they're so completely different. How could you compare Andy Kaufman to anybody really in comedy? But I'd say if we're looking at the funniest, like what makes me laugh, right? I got to go with The Onion. I'm sorry.
Wow. There's an upset. There's definitely an upset, The Onion. And I get it. Because Dave, if you haven't seen, go on YouTube. There's tons and tons. I think they have their own channel, whatever, of a video from them. And there's
okay. And they're gutsy because I remember too, we talk about doing things out of the box and not, which Andy Kaufman was famous for. But like 9/11, The Onion wasn't afraid. They came out with a headline like literally a day or two after, which, when I read it after that whole mess, I actually laughed at it. So I really respected that they weren't afraid, unlike like Ben Stiller, who didn't want to go on for the Saturday Night Live show.
Right.
It's not funny. But The Onion really was bold and really tried to make people laugh, even at a horrific time in history. So
and they do issues that, you know, that clip we just had, the fat child, you know, like doing that, you're laughing at it, but you're not laughing at the fat child. You're laughing at how silly the whole situation, like, you know, that's what comedy is. You got to take a chance. You got to possibly offend. That's okay. That's what comedy is. Speaking of which, Key and Peele also do that kind of thing in their comedy. I really like them. And when I was growing up, I really loved the Smothers Brothers. So those two are up against each other. Let's get a little.
So right now.
Oh, wait a minute. Whoa, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, Andy Kaufman lost to The Onion.
He couldn't even get into the past the play-in round, right? This was a play-in.
Yeah. How about
That's
that?
sad.
Yeah.
Wow.
He might be in a wrong category. He might not be the funniest. He might be something else, as Dan said. The craziest.
And just to clarify, I didn't say that I didn't think The Onion was funny. It was not. I'm not a huge fan of it.
Rewind that tape, Doug.
I call a replay. But I just Andy Kaufman to me he was bizarre. I just didn't laugh out loud at him.
Okay. All right, here we go. Key and Peele.
I taught school for 20 years in the inner city, so don't even think about messing with me. Let's take a roll here. Jay Quellen. Where's Jay Quellen at? No Jay Quellen here?
Do you mean Jacqueline?
Okay, so that's how it's gonna be. Y'all wanna play. Balake. Where is Balake at? No Balake here today. Yes, sir.
My name's Blake.
Blake. Do you wanna go to war, Balake?
No.
Because we could go to war.
No.
I'm for real, so you better check yourself. D-nice. If one of y'all says some silly name, this whole class is gonna feel my wrath. Now, D-nice.
Do you mean Denise?
Son, no, you say your name right now.
Denise?
Say it right.
Denise.
Correctly.
Denise.
Right.
Denise.
Right.
D-nice.
That's better. Thank
There you go, Key and Peele, and that clip is even longer and funnier as it goes along. But anyway, let's just efficiency here. Let's go right to the Smothers Brothers, and we'll do a little bit of a vote on this.
If you're gonna sing like that, then you don't sing the rest of the show, okay? I'll do a song my way. We like to do.
Yeah, well, Mom always liked you best.
Tom, wait a minute. I think you just want sympathy from the audience.
You never
right?
played with me.
Oh, I didn't.
Nobody ever played with me.
We let you play games with us. Every time we played Spin the Bottle.
I was the bottle.
There we go. All right, listen, I think we're starting with Dan at this point. Dan, where are you on these two?
Well, so Key and Peele are funny. I especially like Keegan-Michael Key. I think he's hilarious. He's in actually a new show now that my wife and I just watched it. It's a crazy premise, Schmigadoon, but it's actually really funny. It's very well done. I actually, Jordan Peele to me isn't all that funny, but I think he is hilarious. But if I compare them to the Smothers Brothers, the Smothers Brothers, I mean, these guys still make me laugh. They were great musicians, folk singers, comedians. I would have to go with the Smothers Brothers.
Okay. David Cohen, where are you on this?
This is a tough one. I don't know. Because, the Smothers Brothers were funny, but again, it was like a time period. And I think that it was a different time and they were restrained in what they could talk about, even though they really pushed the envelope themselves, for sure. I don't know. I think just who makes me laugh again, it's Key and Peele makes me laugh more than the Smothers Brothers. That's what it comes down to for me.
Okay. I find this interesting that we got comedy teams against a comedy team against a comedy team. Both of them do and participate in social commentary through their art. So they are similar, just in different decades.
Mm-hmm.
Smothers Brothers, I loved growing up, but it became sort of the same act over and over again. Play the song, interrupt the song, talk something silly, and then get back to the song and so forth. And after a while, it became sort of a routine, I'm going to say. You could expect and know what they were going to say, though they were saying different things, and they fought and were fired for fighting the censorship on television at the time and the war and so forth. So nothing to take away from them, but I agree. Key and Peele it makes me laugh out loud on some of these skits that they have, and so I have to go with them as well. So that's where we're at right now with the play-in. So far we've got Christopher Guest, the Three Stooges, the Onion, and Key and Peele are in the game. Now we're going to go to, now we've got down to 64 to go.
Now we're down to 64.
Now to 64. So let's just take a look real quick Christopher Guest, we've already heard. So Christopher Guest, we're doing the playing person is up against Madeline Kahn. So let's just hear her and we'll talk about that.
Honey, did you see? I put a special hamper in the bathroom just for your shirts, and the other one is just for socks and poo-poo undies. Here I come. Do 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 do.
There we go from Mel Brooks, of course. Young Frankenstein. Hello. We'll be back. I hate to say this. I don't want to cut this conversation short. So we'll be back to determine Christopher Guest against Madeline Kahn in May's Mayhem on Everything Old is New Again.
Holy great interview. Hi, this is Burt Ward, Robin from TV's Batman. You're listening to Douglas Viviani and David Cohen's fabulous radio show, Everything's Old is New Again. To the Batmobile, citizens.
Yes, we're back here. Dan Newberg is joining us. Dan, you impressed by all these intros of these stars that have been on our show in the past?
Yeah, because I remember them all when they were actually new. It's kind of scary.
Now, we're continuing to determine and fight over the brackets, if you will, of the various games, we call it, of celebrities, comedians, who's the most or the funniest person. Madeline Kahn versus Christopher Guest. David Cohen, you have to lead the game on this one. First conversation. Yeah.
I don't know. Madeline Kahn was so funny. Everything she did, every movie she was in. I only saw her in movies, and maybe like back in the day when they had, these variety shows and she would come on as a guest. Yeah, I think I still have to lean towards Christopher Guest, just body of work and, got to go with Chris Guest.
I agree. Madeline Kahn is hysterical. Everything she did is great. the volume of work, maybe, I don't know, is not as much as Christopher Guest if I had to make some determining factor. So I'm going to, and I still go with the idea that Christopher Guest was very, very creative in creating a sort of a new form of comedy. So I will go with Christopher Guest. Dan, where are you on this one?
Yeah, it's unanimous, isn't it? I mean, I love Madeline Kahn, but her voice can be annoying to me sometimes, so I got to go with Christopher Guest.
Oh, that's funny. I think that's one of the funniest parts about her is that voice, but I can see that. I could definitely see that.
She was a piece of work, though. All right, listen, here we go. Let's dive into another one. Martin Short.
And you met your husband.
I did.
The wonderful Richard Louis Dreyfuss.
No, that is not my husband.
He's not your husband.
No, people often make that mistake.
They do, I bet.
His name isn't Louis Dreyfuss. His name is Richard Dreyfuss with 2 S's, and I'm Louis Dreyfuss with 1 S.
And you married Richard after or before?
I didn't marry Richard in
You lived together in sin because that was the era.
I'm married to Brad Hall, Jimmy.
But you took Richard Dreyfuss's surname. Why?
It's just so pretty.
You're working on anything? Anybody?
Let's see. Do I do you?
Betty Davis.
Well, I mean, you aren't that easy to do.
Then we'll skip it. I just wanted to know.
Yeah, okay.
He literally just imitated her and she didn't get it. Anyway, Martin Short versus Milton Berle. I'm going to not play the clip. We know Milton Berle is stand-up.
We know Milton Berle.
Yeah, and his presentation. So I have to lead the way on this one. To me, it's clear Martin Short over Milton Berle. Milton Berle never really hugely made me funny, though. I do respect in the 70s, I think it was Thursday Night, and a pioneer in comedy on television. It didn't translate to me, even on the Dean Martin roasts. I never thought he was all that funny, just me. So he would just tell jokes, and as time he wasn't the most wonderful. And you see that when he does characters, they're horrible to say it. But okay, so that's me. Dan.
So I'm partial to Milton Berle because I met him as a child and actually got his autograph, which is still on my wall, at the Roy Radin Vaudeville in Hempstead, Long Island, back in it had to be like 1972 or something like that. So having said that, similar to my other logic, I'm going to go with Martin Short because I just think he's brilliant. And if I have to choose between the two, it's Martin Short for sure.
All right, there we go. So Martin Short wins that one. We're rushing a little bit, but I want to get through a couple here. I will talk more about Martin Short next time, whoever he's up against next. So how about Larry David against Roseanne Barr?
Oh, I didn't even get to vote. Okay, go ahead.
Holy smokes. Go ahead. Sorry about that. What's your thought on Martin Short?
Yeah, it's unanimous. Let's move on.
Okay, there we go. All right, Larry David against Roseanne Barr.
It's always been a dream of mine to meet
Julia Louis-Dreyfus and just meet her in person. And if you could just make a phone call and make that happen, that would be so great.
You know what? I'm more than happy to call her up. I can't guarantee.
So it's so hard to get anything absolutely guaranteed.
Exactly.
It's like when it gets buried, you don't know if it's guaranteed or either.
No.
I agree with you there. I know I can make something happen. I don't say I think I can make something happen. I can make something happen. I just wanted to be clear that it's just a dream of mine.
I think you're pretty clear.
We have an understanding. This has to be buried.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give you my number.
Great.
Wayne Fetterman has been on our show, by the way, in that scene as well. A friend of the show, I think. I'm going to start this one with, to me, what am I saying? We've got to do, well, we know Roseanne Barr. Do you need to hear a little something on Roseanne? Here's a little something.
Sure, why not? She was fun to hear.
Absolutely.
Have you ever noticed that fat people don't think like skinny people? We have our own way of thinking. Like, did you ever ask a fat person for directions? Because you go up to them on the street and ask them where something is, and they tell you like this. Well, go down here to Arby's. And go right past Wendy's, McDonald's, Burger King. It's that chocolate brown building down there. But it's good that I'm fat, though, because I'm a mom, and fat moms are better than skinny moms. Because what do you want when you're depressed? Some skinny mom? Well, why don't you jog around a while and that'll release adrenaline in your blood and you'll better cope with stress. Or some fat mom. Well, let's have pudding, Oreos, and marshmallows.
There you go. So who has to start this one off? I think it goes to Dan at this point. Dan, you're first.
There's no question in my mind, Larry David. I mean, he's not only a hilarious writer, but he's, as a comedic actor, I think he's brilliant. So you got to go with Larry David.
Of course, force behind Seinfeld, as well as his own show. Of course, David Cohen.
Oh, this is really tough. Really, really tough. Because I think Larry David's sort of a one-trick pony, even though he's really funny. And Roseanne she was a great stand-up. She created an iconic sitcom, and she's funny in even serious roles or semi-serious roles she plays. Ugh. I'll pass. Doug, go ahead.
I have to go, and I agree with everything you said, but that voice grates on me, too. I never really loved her humor, though I respect it in the show. I respect it.
So two women have been up, and they've been denied because of the grating voices. We're doing well, guys.
There you go. David Cohen. I am going to go with Larry David. I can't help it. That's what happens. Let's go into someone that you suggested, Matt Groening. Versus Lucille Ball. I'm not going to play clips with Running Behind. We both know who that is. Matt Groening is the force behind The Simpsons. Been on 25 years. And we're going to start with Dan on this. Oh, I'm sorry. We just started with Dan. That's going to be starting with me. I love The Simpsons. Love how creative it is. The longevity is incredible. Lucille Ball, coincidentally, had just as much longevity. She was an unbelievable actress and a force behind Star Trek. So I have to, without hesitation, vote for Lucille Ball. Dan, where are you on it?
100% agree. I've never been a huge fan of The Simpsons, although I respect, what Matt Groening has been able to do over a long period of time. But Lucille Ball is Lucille Ball. How do you not vote for her? So I got to go with Lucille Ball.
David?
Well, just for the record, I would just take the opposite. And I would vote for Roseanne Barr, just on the record. Maybe it's because I lost it anyway. But so this one, listen, guy, I'm probably one of the few people. I see nothing funny of Lucille Ball. I don't find her the least bit funny, believe it or not. Wow. I appreciate the talent and her influence. Never found her funny. So Matt Groening to me would be the answer.
Wow, how about that? That's very interesting.
Lucy.
And Lucy had the voice also, David, just so we were on that. So now she won with the voice.
It wasn't the voice. I just didn't think she was very funny.
Well, I
thought Desi Arnaz was funnier than her. How about that?
Wow. All right, we can talk about that next time, whoever she's up against. Let's go talk about John Candy real quick.
She's only 6.
That is not a valid excuse. I hear that every day, and I dismiss it.
I don't think I want to know a 6-year-old who isn't a dreamer or a silly heart. And I sure don't want to know one who takes their student career seriously. I don't have a college degree. I don't even have a job. But I know a good kid when I see one. Because they're all good kids. Until dried out, brain-dead skags like you drag them down and convince them they're no good. You so much as scowl at my niece or any other kid in this school and I hear about it, and I'm coming looking for you. Take this quarter. Go downtown and have a rat gnaw that thing off your face. Good day to you, madam.
Of course, from Uncle Buck.
That's your funny John Candy
and
clip?
Here we go, Mike Myers.
It's Wayne's World! Wayne's World!
time to party. Welcome to Wayne's World. I'm your excellent host, Wayne Campbell. With me, as always, is Garth.
Party on, Wayne.
Oh, party on, Garth. Okay. All right, we had an excellent summer.
Excellent.
Okay, let's move on, all right? The remains of the day with Academy Award winners Anthony Hopkins and Emma Thompson. I thought it was a tour de force portrayal of the repressed emotions of the English psyche, set against the backdrop of fascistic pre-war Britain. I thought it was breathtaking. Garth?
Sucked.
All right, Jurassic Park. Oh, man, I loved it.
Yeah, it was real cool and real scary.
Oh, yeah.
And Laura Dern, what? She's a babosaurus.
She's a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
There we go.
Major Chickadactyl.
I'm sorry. David Cohen, John Candy versus Mike Myers in the few moments we have left.
Mike Myers.
Oh, there we go. I'm going John Candy clearly and for sure in my world. And so it goes down to Dan Newberger.
Yeah, this is another difficult decision because I love John Candy. I think he's funny in everything that he's been in, but I think Mike Myers is brilliant as a character actor, as a comedian, stand-up acting. So I'm going to go with Mike Myers.
All right, there we go. I hate to say we've had to cut through things a little bit quickly this week. Next week we'll be back with more of Everything Old is New Again's Mayhem. We are going to find out who is the funniest person of all time. Right now, we've got Christopher Guest, Three Stooges, The Onion, Key and Peele. Let's see, Martin Short, Larry David, Lucille Ball, and Mike Myers. We'll be back next week. Everything Old is New Again. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah. I got to tell you guys, my phone is blowing up.
Uh-oh.
Everybody is weighing in on the one bracket.